Good afternoon, friends. Good morning, and welcome to The Bright Side, your nutritional program dedicated to the understanding of the vast world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. I'm your host, pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado, registered pharmacist number 12275. I specialize in using nutritional supplements where other healthcare practitioners use toxic pharmaceutical drugs and sometimes deadly medical procedures. If you suspect that there are natural nutritional roads to your health and vitality and well-being, and to addressing your health challenges, whatever they may be, but you don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place. As you listen to The Bright Side every day, you are more and more in control of your body. You are more and more knowledgeable, and you know you can overcome any health challenge. That's why we are here every day on The Bright Side, helping clear up the sometimes confusing world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. Over the last 30 years of practicing pharmacy, I've seen drug-free recoveries from diabetes, hypertension, obesity, skin diseases like psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, acne, digestive ailments, autoimmune issues of all kinds. Recoveries that by the standards of modern medicine can only be called a miracle, but what is in the world of the body, what is in the world of biology, standard operating procedure, because the human biological system is a healing system, it's a regenerating system, it is designed divinely to heal and renew itself on a moment-to-moment basis, and while some folks may call that a miracle, it really is just the way the body works. Welcome back to The Bright Side, friends. We've been spending a lot of time talking about the ketogenic diet and its multiple health benefits. We will continue to do that in the coming days. Today, I thought we'd take a slight digression, and talk about a nutritional supplement that I have personally been using for over a month now on a daily basis, a product that I'm so impressed with that I will be carrying it on brightsidehealth.com along with a few other interesting and healthful products. It's called Bone Broth Protein. It's a powdered supplement derived from bone soup, which we've been talking about in this program for a long time. It's a food, really. It's a powerful source of nutrition. And it's the brainchild of one of the most brilliant and innovative health experts you will ever hear, a visionary thinker who walks his talk and has personal experience with the power of nutrition and using nutrients to leverage health and the human body's divinely mandated healing abilities. Of course, I'm talking about my friend and my mentor, Jordan Rubin, formulator, health guru, and author of numerous books, including The Maker's Diet, Patient Heal Thyself, The Great Physician's RX, and my personal favorite, Restoring Your Digestive Health, a book that I've been recommending and reading for years. So without further ado, it's my honor and pleasure to welcome Jordan Rubin to The Bright Side. Hey, Jordan, good morning. Nice to talk to you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Listen, before we get going, I want you to briefly tell your story for those folks who may not know a little bit about your personal health journey. It's so interesting and it's so compelling. And maybe a little bit about how you personally healed yourself from a life-threatening disease.
Absolutely. I was a teenager, loving life, extremely healthy, and all of a sudden, seemingly overnight, I was stricken with multiple incurable diseases: Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes. I had parasitic, bacterial, fungal, viral infections, complete breakdown of my immune system, and ultimately wasted away to a low of 104 pounds, wheelchair-bound, and I'm 6 feet tall. After trying 69 medical experts, to no avail. Conventional medicine failed. Natural cures failed. I met a man who taught me how to eat based on the Bible, history, and science. And in a 40-day period that I would later refer to as the Maker's Diet 40-day health experience, I went from death to life, sickness to health, and I guess you could say from mess to messenger. And upon getting my life and health back and being medication-free for now 20 years, I began a journey to help transform the health of this nation and world one life at a time. I started health companies. I've now written 25 books on health, wellness, nutrition, and even faith. And I'm today more passionate than I was all those years ago because I've seen people's lives transformed by the simple approach that if we can replace the valuable components that we should have in our diet, foundational foods, we can overcome any health challenge. And that's what drives me today, and really excited to be here to share with people a truth that has been hidden in plain sight that I believe will transform your entire body and your life.
I love it. I've been talking about bone broth for years, and when your associate told me about bone broth protein as a powdered supplement, my nutritionist ears perked up. It seemed like such a simple idea. It seemed like it was simple, but it was very inspired. How and why did you come up with this, and why do you think nobody's brought it to market until now?
I'm laughing a little bit, Ben, because the answer to how I formulate is pretty simple. I need something, my family needs something, I find it, and then it works, and I'm compelled to share it with the world. And this was no different. I was dealing with a knee issue, some inflammation, and it's interesting. I've been writing about the benefits of bone broth since the book you referenced, Restoring Your Digestive Health, in 2003. I've recommended it as a first cleanse. I recommend it as a last resort. I recommended everything in between. But let's face it, it's difficult to make. It's messy. It's expensive. Right. So I sort of fell off of my bone broth bandwagon. And then when my knee was bothering me, I started making it. But I realized I need to consume so much bone broth that I have to make another batch before one's done. It cooks for 24 hours. It smells up the house. So then I found a really great brand of organic bone broth in a frozen liquid. So I'm defrosting that when I remember. It's leaking, but either way, it's good. I'm doing 48 ounces a day, Ben, of bone broth so that I can support the health of my joints, ligaments, tendons, and it's working. So then I'm going to Florida for a 10-day trip, and I don't have access to this bone broth. I talk to folks that are there. I say, hey, can you buy me some at the local health food store? It doesn't carry it. So I looked into some of the ingredients I've been using to formulate, and get this. I had a bone broth substance that I was using as an ingredient and a flavoring for another product, and I said, well, I've got nothing else. I'm going to go to Florida, and I'm going to consume this powder mixed in liquid, replacing my bone broth, and see how I do with a very busy schedule. Wow. And lo and behold, tasted good. The results were great. And I said to my team, hey, send me a specification sheet. I want to know what's in here. And when I saw it, it blew my mind, and I saw it in big headlines. Bone broth protein. I saw the end from the beginning, and I knew then, Ben, that this was going to be the next, and I believe most important protein powder, if not supplement, we could ever consume. That is so cool. It's like ask and you shall receive. And that's amazing. That's an amazing story. Hey, listen, I want to talk, there's so much to talk about with bone broth protein, but I think maybe we should start off with the basics. Tell us a little bit about what protein is as opposed to the two other macronutrients that everyone knows about, carbs and fat. How is protein distinguished, and what exactly it is? What exactly is it? First of all, protein comes from the Latin term proteus, which means of primary importance, or that which comes first. Protein makes up the components of your cells. We're talking about skin, hair, nails. We're talking about muscles. We're talking about immune cells. We're talking about hormones. Protein is the critical nutrient among the macronutrients for you being you. DNA is made of protein. I could go on and on. So I would submit, Ben, that the type of proteins we consume in our bodies could be as important as any single decision we make. That's powerful stuff. So bone broth protein, when people talk about bone broth, there's a distinction that we got to make between bone broth protein and bone broth itself in terms of what it's made up of, cost, convenience, or anything else you can come up with. Tell us how bone broth protein is distinguished from bone broth. Well, it's a great question. What bone broth protein is comprised of the best elements of bone broth without high sodium, no mess, and not a great expense. So if we look at the dozens of articles, and you and I were talking off the air about research and articles on bone broth, and to say that bone broth is blowing up is an understatement. It was a niche. Now it is a trend. Hollywood stars, professional athletes are being mandated to use it. So bone broth protein is the best of bone broth in a convenient form, high protein, high in nutrients, and beneficial compounds to support joint health, gut health, skin and beauty, and many more. Okay, we got to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about how the proteins in bone broth are distinguished from other protein supplements that people may be using or may have heard about. We'll do that when we come back from our break. We're talking to Jordan Rubin about bone broth protein. You are listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. We'll take a break and be back right after this. Don't go away.
are back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific time, and 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 12 Central Time. If you're interested in checking out our Truth Skin Health products, please head over to truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. Make sure you take a look at our retinol 5% gel. And if you're interested in checking out our Brightside Health products, including bone broth protein, head over to brightsidehealth.com, brightsidehealth.com. We're talking to Jordan Rubin, formulator of the bone broth protein. Jordan, what is the major difference, or at least some of the major differences, between the protein that you'll get in the bone broth protein and other proteins that people may have heard about or are using, such as whey protein or hemp seed protein or egg protein? How is bone broth protein distinguished from those?
I think, Ben, what's most important or first important is the differences that bone broth doesn't have. So let me explain. Bone broth protein is powerful for all its nutrients, beneficial compounds, proteins. We'll talk about that. But the main reason people become attracted to bone broth protein, in my opinion, is it's a protein that's dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, gut-friendly, and paleo-friendly. You've been talking about the ketogenic diet, as you mentioned. I believe that bone broth protein is the ideal protein and or supplement for a ketogenic, low-carb, paleo diet, and it's really the ideal supplement for people today who are experiencing what they would call accelerated aging. We talked about this yesterday. Bone broth may be the most important internal beauty product you could ever consume. So when you're looking at whey protein, it's dairy. It's an allergen. When you're looking at soy protein, it's one of the top allergens. Rice protein's a grain. Pea protein's a legume. Hemp protein's a seed, which is definitely better for those on a paleo or a grain-free diet, but it still has its limiting factors. Bone broth protein is great as your sole protein supplement, or it's great along with other proteins. And here's probably the most exciting aspect, Ben. Despite what you think, bone broth protein tastes great. Not only is there a pure version and a turmeric that can be used warm or room temperature or in recipes. Think about this. When and how can you put bone broth into green juice in the morning? Answer, you can't, because you're not going to consume a 32-ounce green juice. But with bone broth protein, you can make your green juice better. You can make the sugars slower to absorb. What about coffee? Adding bone broth protein to coffee makes it taste great and extends the benefits of the caffeine, and it buffers the acidity because bone broth protein is the protein that is alkalizing, not acidifying. And then the list goes on and on. Imagine consuming brown rice or quinoa and adding bone broth protein to the soak water. Now you've got 20 grams of protein in your grain. You can even make recipes, desserts, and we've got a chocolate and vanilla that kids and adults alike absolutely love. I know that sounds strange, but you will love chocolate and vanilla bone broth protein. 2 grams of carbs, 1 gram of sugar in the chocolate and vanilla. No grams of carbs or sugar in the pure and turmeric, with 20 grams of protein.
You can bump up your bone broth too. You can bump up the protein value of your bone broth by putting a little bone broth protein in there.
Absolutely, and people have done it all the time, and we've really enjoyed it. We have a great book that has 57 recipes how to integrate bone broth protein in your diet. And since it's the missing protein for so long, I believe an accelerated bone broth program, such as the one that I'm on, is ideal for virtually everyone listening right now.
Now, when I think about bone broth, I think about connective tissue. 25% or more of the body is made up of connective tissue. You mentioned beauty. Anybody who knows about beauty or is interested in beauty, particularly women, know about collagen. So when I think of bone broth, I think about connective tissue and collagen. Tell us about how connective tissue is related to overall health. You mentioned accelerated aging. And tell us about the relationship between connective tissue and the aging process, and how bone broth protein can specifically, among all the proteins, how bone broth protein can benefit you if you're dealing with connective tissue issues, accelerated aging, or you're getting wrinkles or you're starting to notice aging on the skin.
Well, first, let me quickly explain why bone broth, from a scientific standpoint, is different than all the other proteins. The other proteins you mentioned, from egg to soy to whey to milk to rice, pea, hemp, they all contain high levels of methionine. Methionine is a muscle-building amino acid. It makes that protein a complete protein. Our diets are overloaded with methionine-dominant or muscle-building proteins and deficient in connective tissue proteins rich in proline and glycine, such as bone broth. For years, our ancestors consumed soups, connective tissue. My grandmother used to serve